Shabbat Shalom. I'd like to invite everybody to rise and greet the people around you and wish them a Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom again. That was fun. Thank you, Cantor. So as we settle ourselves and begin our Shabbat worship and fix my sound, our Torah portion this week, which is called Bo, speaks repeatedly about Pharaoh's hardened heart. And in Hebrew, that is kaved lev, which means not only hard heart, but heavy heart. Shabbat is the time that we take that heaviness, anything that has upset us this week, made us feel burdened, made us feel stressed. And this is the time that we release that, we lighten it, we regain our sense of wholeness and shlemut, of peace. And so as we welcome Shabbat, I invite all of you to just breathe in and let it all go. And one more time, let's breathe in, lighten our hearts, and we welcome Shabbat with the kindling of the Shabbat candles. We're going to turn to page 2. And it is my joy to invite up the next gainer child, Jacob, to kindle the Shabbat lights with his family on the bima, page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Amen. We turn now to page 5 for these words of Kiddush.
And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing. And God ceased on the seventh day from all of the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon Hinchilanu zikaron lemaase vereshit ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh zecher litziat mitzrayim kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodeshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Mazel tov. We are continuing to prepare our hearts and souls for this Sabbath worship as we sing together on page 15, Zamru.
Zamru
16.
Zamru Adonai b'chinor. Yai, lai, lai, lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai.
turn now to page 20 for Lecha Dodi, Come My Beloved. We greet our Sabbath bride, and on the final verse, we turn to our entrance and bow to the Sabbath bride.
Ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala, ya la 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 penei Shabbat, penei Shabbat nekave, ya la 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 lecha dodi, ya la 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 likrat kala. Shamor v'zachor v'ribor echad v'ishmiyanu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem u'tiferet v'lithilah.
And now that we've lightened our hearts through song and some worship, we turn to page 28 for our official call to worship, and remain standing.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la la la.
Together at the top of page 29. There is one who sings the song of his own life, finding everything within himself. There is one who leaves the circle of herself and sings the song of her people. There is one whose voice rings with the song of humanity, hoping for the highest perfection. And there is one who rises even higher, uniting with all creatures, with all worlds, filling the universe with song. Nivarech, let us bless. And we invite forward our bar mitzvah, Jacob, for leading us in the Shema, where we feel that sense of everyone and everything in the universe uniting together.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha Hayom al levavecha, veshinatam levanecha, vedibarta bam, beshivtecha bevetecha, uvlaktecha vaderech, uvshochbecha, uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזיזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot Lachem Le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Mazel tov to Jacob and his entire family. Jacob, we have seen you literally since you were in diapers, crawling through the floors of Temple Beth Sholom. And it's nice you've turned out so well. We know tomorrow will be incredible. And Hannah, that means you are the last one left. You're next. We're going to turn to page 40. And as we prepare to chant these words of freedom, I'd like to share this poem with you written for this week's parashah, Bo. May you come into the recesses and deep places of your heart to soften and free yourself from oppression. May you find the courage to face your inner Pharaoh, the heaviness you carry around, and know you will find your way to freedom. May you soften and float out from under the burdens that weigh you down. May the narrow straits of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, become the birth canal of your new free self. Awaken to your own power to turn fear into love, aware that the Holy One sustains and supports you. Tonight, we embrace freedom in all forms and think of all the ways we are blessed to be free and are yet to be free as we chant these words of freedom, Mi Chamocha.
Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I be buried in my grave. And come home to my Lord and be free. Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you,
We'll continue in prayer, page 42, Hashkivenu. We pray for a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace in which all of us may dwell.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom ve'avidenu
turn to page 46 for the central part of our prayer service. We're going to begin on page 46 with these words, and then we're going to continue silently for the Amidah. It goes from page 46 to page 62. Ask you to rise now as we pray the prayers of our own hearts or the prayers that are found in our prayer book. When you have concluded your prayers, you're welcome to be seated as you wish.
La 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 la. 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 Adonai, Sifatai Titach, Ufiyahin, Tehilatecha, Yada da da, Yada da da da. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ose shalom, hu yaseh shalom, hu yaseh V'yimeru amen, v'yimeru amen. We ask for peace on earth, and we say amen. V'yimeru amen. V'yimeru amen, v'yimeru amen. We raise our voice as one, and we say amen.
Beautiful. Everyone take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, look around this full room. Not just full of people, but full of spirit and energy, full of Shabbat. As we continue in our service with the Misha Berach, the blessing over those who need our prayers for healing, we think about those who need spiritual healing and mental healing and also physical healing. We include ourselves in that list. And we think of so many more. In a moment, I'll ask you to share the names of those you're thinking about. But right now, I'll read the names of those in our congregation. Gail Ossip, George Lublin, Moshe Ben Cyril Baila Veruvain, Lenny Hecht, Bill Meadow, David Siegel, Judith Ryder Cornelison, Muriel Dubrow, Marilyn Sheffman, Randy Aronson, Shirley Aronson, Roberta Ty, Vicki Engelman, Sherry Werbin, Chanasara Bat David, Chavalea Bat Hadassah, Bill Jean Smith, Linda Lee, Rachel Bat Miriam B'Mordechai, Avram Ben Chana V'Samuel, V'Shmuel, Doris Oleski, Carol Spar, Evie Cap Martin, Earl Broidy, Claire Block, Mati Bat Shoshana, Joanna Lees, Maggie Musser. If you'd like to add the name of someone you're thinking of, I ask that you please stand, and as my hand crosses where you're standing, feel free to say their name out loud or in your heart. Thank you, Karen. Oliva? Adel? Thanks, Steve. Thank you. We also add to the list the family of the young man who lost his life at the Hebrew Academy this week. And we continue to pray on behalf of the American and Israeli soldiers who are missing in action, being held captive, who are in need of physical and emotional healing. And as one community, as one Jewish family, we join together on page 253 with the words of Misha Berach. Amen. We commonly and often for our own sake turn from what's sad to what's joyful so that together we find balance. So I'm going to ask you to try an exercise with me, and hopefully you'll do it. If you are celebrating a simcha this week, a birthday, a bar mitzvah, an anniversary, please stand up. Stay standing. If you are new to Temple Beth Sholom this evening or feel renewed and that you are new today, please stand up. Welcome. That's a lot of you. If you are here because you are ready to be enriched by the spiritual workshops that you're going to engage in, please stand up. If, as our Parsha this week, Parsha Bo, as Cantor Siegel said, if you feel released from some slavery, please stand up. If you cannot wait for the food at potluck or in your house or in Avanti, please stand up as we all rise and we join together in singing the Shehechianu. Please hold on to your neighbor and your loved ones as we offer this prayer. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu l'zman hazeh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu l'zman hazeh Amen. We are going to join together in the Aleinu as we remain standing. I'd like to invite Jacob and his family up, as well as any youngsters or young at heart, as we open the ark and we turn to page 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon ha'ol, l'ten gedula liotzer reshit, shelo asanu kegoyeh ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama,
Please be seated. We take a few moments now to remember all those who came before us, those who may have died in years past at this season, those who may have died in recent days. As a congregation, we remember the more than 6 million men, women, and children that were murdered in the Shoah and the Holocaust. Remember all those who died making sure that our homeland Israel exists for us and for Jews everywhere. Remember all those who perished in the name of freedom, liberty, justice, and righteousness. And remember all the innocent victims of hatred, ignorance, stupidity, and natural disasters. On this Shabbat, we remember friends and family whose yortzites are being observed and whose names have lovingly been inscribed on plaques which are in our alcove of remembrance. We remember Katie Astor, Rose Baroque Berger, Maxwell Berger, Katie Brayman, Talia Browdy, Alexander Brown, Erwin Camp, Arthur Kurshon, David Davis, Frida Davis, Anna Dreyer, Rachel S. Ellenbogen, Herbert Morris Glickman, Ida Glottman, Jerome Leonard Golden, Helene Graham, Morris Greenberg, Jerome Halpern, Alex Hansen, Erica Henschel, Jean Hershey, Minna Khan, A.J. Kaiser, Georgette Kimmel, Ann Klein, Shirley Kurzweil, Carol Ween Langer, Jenny Levin, Ida Litsky, Daniel Lifter, Tilly Zinneman Myers, Joseph Oleski, Marcia Olin, Louis E. Pallett, Stephen Simon Perel, Solomon Rabiner, Sam Ryder, Frank Rosen, Rose Rosenthal, Morris Rossman, Kate Lowenthal Schatz, Fanny Schoenfeld, Georgia Broida Serban, Solomon Baruch Shore, Louis Fleischer Snetman, Beatrice Stein, Rose Steinberg, Marks Tenon, Albert Weil, Talia Yaffe Stern. And remember as well those whose yortzites are being observed at this time: Oscar Berkson, Anna Dreyer, Anna Esform, David Frankel, Debbie Friedman, Samuel Gabowetsky, Rose Gross, Art Harris, Bessie Cassay, Cynthia Katz, Reuben Kooten, Uzi Levy, Herbert Litz, Esther Michel, Muriel Nash, Elisa Rabinovich, Joseph Rose, Alan Rosenbaum, Frida Rubin, Louisa Rutenberg, Ann Gold Schick, Pearl Schlosser, Saul Schreiber, Ivan Selig, Frank Sherman, Robert Slass, Abe Steinberg, Jack Stoller, John Stoll, Jack Taylor. And we remember those who've died in recent days and their families remain in the shloshim of mourning in the 30-day period of mourning. We remember Molly Ruth, Marvin Stoneberg, Irma Sarah Samek, Chaya Sarah Bat Yehuda Levy, Morton Goss, Gertrude Mark, Amos Oz, Jean Westcoat, Bernice Sir, Wendy Barron, Jose M. Ruiz, Jeffrey Allen Jones. And if there's a name that I haven't mentioned and you're saying Kaddish, you have a yortzeit, I'll ask you to please rise and mention those names out loud, and please remain standing as we're all going to join for Kaddish in just a moment. Thank you. Thank you. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may the memory of all the righteous in our lives be a blessing as we rise and recite with one voice words of Kaddish, page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah, v'yalmad v'yavrach v'yamteh v'yamlech malchuteh, v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayeh l'kol beit Yisrael, b'gala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olamei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shmei D'Kudishah B'rechu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tush B'chata V'nechamata Da'mi Ran B'yalma V'yimru Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru. Amen. Osei shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru. Amen. May the source of peace grant peace to all of you, mourn, comfort all who are bereaved, and send healing to all who are saddened, as together we say, Amen. Please be seated. Invite up now Stephen Pardo, a member of our board, to share greetings on behalf of the congregation.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. This is so wonderful to see such a great gathering. So there are a couple of announcements I want to make. First of all, I want to thank the cantor and rabbis for a beautiful service. Second, I want to congratulate Jacob, and we know that tomorrow is going to be a beautiful service in the morning. And congratulations to the Gaynor and Glazer family, and we know you're very excited for tomorrow's celebration, so looking forward to that. In addition to that, Shabbat morning, we have a Jewish mediation group that meets up in the second floor in the boardroom. That's between 8:25 and 9:15 a.m. Oh, meditation. You know, it's the lawyer in me. I apologize for that. Hopefully, I can use some of that meditation at my next mediation. Hopefully, I have some more exciting announcements to make. So, on January 18th at 6 p.m., we have the Martin Luther King Jr. Shabbat. And this speaker who's going to be joining us is from the Marjorie Stone Douglas Ivy Shamus. She's going to be our guest speaker. And Ivy was the person teaching history at the Holocaust class when the shooter entered her room. And both her and her students' lives were changed forever. So please consider having your children, grades age 6 and above, come to hear her inspiring story of resilience and survival. And that will be on January 18th at 6 p.m. here at the temple. On Tuesday, January 29th at 7 p.m., there's going to be a presentation by Dr. Rebecca Erbelding on Americans, refugees, and the Holocaust. And that'll be a discussion of how the Americans and the U.S. government respond to the news of the Holocaust during World War II, and what could we have done to save the Jews. And then you'll see in your announcement some other topics that will be discussed during that speaker. So we hope you can join us on January 29th. And on Wednesday, January 30th at 7 p.m. in the chapel, there's going to be a discussion. It's a 3-part series about understanding the upcoming elections in Israel. Those elections are taking place April 9th, but this will be 3 parts where you will continue to learn about what is ultimately to be the outcome, depending upon what occurs on April 9th. And if you have any questions about that, you can check and actually contact Mark Baranek. And then finally, on February 2nd, for those of you who have received the Hakol and have gone online, you see that on February 2nd of 2019, we're having Shalom Fest honoring Mark the Mensch Baranek. And we hope that you will be there and join us. And we know that there's already 300 plus attendees that we have coming to this event, and we are looking forward to filling the room up with lots of joy and excitement. So that is it for the announcements, and thank you again. Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, just heard there's no mediation or meditation tomorrow morning. So none tomorrow, but 9:30 there is Torah study as usual. So this Shabbat, we begin our 2nd annual Kavanah retreat, sponsored by the Singerman family. Thank you so much to Marta and Paul. And we are so excited to welcome a rock star like Rabbi Amichai Lau-Lavie, who is joining us from New York City. It's wonderful for the rabbis and cantor who are here to be able to have the opportunity to learn with somebody whose career we have followed, and it's really been inspirational to us. The first chief rabbi of Israel, Rav Kook, said that we should make the old new and make the new holy. And I feel that has really been the premise of everything you've done in your life, is renewing us, renewing Judaism, and elevating it for all of us. Rabbi Amichai has been called an iconoclastic mystic, a Pied Piper, a maverick spiritual leader. All of the above are true. He is the founding spiritual leader of Lab Shul in New York, and even the name Lab Shul connotes for us the kind of experimental, joyful worship and work that they're doing there in New York. He is an Israeli-born educator, writer, performance artist, and he has been named by the Forward as one of the 32 most inspiring rabbis in the country. So without further ado, we're so grateful to you for being with us, Rabbi Amichai.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for the introductions and the warm welcome and this beautiful Friday night service, really heart-centering. Kavanah means intention, means really grounding. So this was a great way to begin this Shabbat of Kavanah. So Frida and Jack Levy enter a synagogue on Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. in their pajamas, bickering. They're walking up the aisle of a big sanctuary. He in his bathrobe, she in her tattered negligee. I don't want to be here, I want to go back. Why am I not still in bed? I want things as they were. And she insists, we got to do this, we got to do this. As they walk up the aisle, people are looking and saying, shushing them, shh, the Torah service is about to begin. And what people don't understand is that Jack and Frida Levy are the Torah service. So I'm talking about something that happened at this temple 12 years ago, at the big sanctuary, where I was Jack Levy, and my colleague Franny Silverman was Frida Levy, and we were acting out the Torah. We were in fact acting out the Torah portion that will be read in a synagogue like this one next week. The Torah portion of Beshalach, which tells of the actual leaving of Egypt, a story that is starting already this week. And I don't know what you're going to do tomorrow, Jacob, for your Torah portion, but you might talk about that, right? So what we were doing here, we were lucky. We think it's about 12 years ago. Rabbi Gail and I tried to do the math on this. We were bringing Torah to life. We were acting out a story that is not precisely inside the Torah, but is echoed, whispered in what we call the white fire that's behind the black fire, the margins of the text. See, there's a line in the Torah in next week's Parsha that talks about what happens in this week's Parsha, where when the Israelites leave Egypt, it says, "V'chamushim yatzu bnei Yisrael mimitzrayim." Now, chamushim is a funny Hebrew word, and there's no vowels in the Torah, so it could mean chamishim, could mean chamashim, but it's something like the word 50, or the word armed, or the word empowered. Depends how you read it. So the usual translation is that when they leave Egypt, they leave with weapons. Because, well, you know, it's not easy to be a Jew. And they're armed. But there's another way of reading that text. V'chamushim could mean 1 out of 5. And so the Midrash, the Jewish legends of yore say, 1 out of 5 left Egypt. 4 out of 5 stayed behind. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm saying that is what happened in our storybooks. That's what happened when our ancient sages and poets and thinkers got together, as we are tonight, to ask, what do we make of the story? How do we make Torah speak to us? So somebody came up with this maybe historical version of events that says 1 out of 5 braved the unknown. 1 out of 5 chose change over familiar. 1 out of 5 said, I can push myself beyond my comfort zone and beyond the things as is to go to the as if, to the discomfort zone. 1 out of 5. So Jack Levy, I played grumpy Jack Levy, was the voice that says, I don't want to leave Egypt. I want to stay in Egypt with my boys and my billiard games. And I know I'm a slave. You know, everyone's got problems. But it's what I know. I know where my paycheck is coming from. So Pharaoh's Pharaoh, but Moses, are you kidding me? This guy can't even talk. I don't know where we're going. There's no promise of toilets. I'm staying behind. Frida Levy, played by Franny, was saying, no, buddy, you got to take a risk. Freedom is worth it. You can stay in the rut of things as is, the familiar addictions, or the familiar behaviors, or the things as were, because we can be nostalgic to what was. But taking a risk, changing, is what freedom's about. So in the Midrash, in our Jewish legends, there's already the understanding that the story of the Exodus, of the leaving, is not history. It's not just history. It's also psychology. It's also self-help. It's also a political wake-up call for every single generation. And we know this because we sit at Seder tables and we might be reciting Maxwell House or whatever version of the Haggadah, but what we're really doing is we are rehearsing the master story of our personal and collective optimism. We are rehearsing, but reinventing what it's like to say in every generation, in every age, our challenge as human beings is to push ourselves a little further at every moment of our lives, beyond what we know to what we can become. It's very easy to stay in the rut of things as is. Our goal as humans is to grow. So I was here 12 years ago with Franny modeling a technique that we came up with in 1999 called storytelling, a combination of Torah and storytelling. Was anybody here for that? Does anybody remember Jack and Frida Levy walking around? Rabbi Amichai, do you remember that? Great. So I'm not making it up. Good. It was the first time we decided to walk into a shul in our pajamas. And by the way, pajamas, because according to the story, that is in this week's Parsha too, it is midnight when the last strike strikes. By the way, 10 plagues, that's a terrible translation. It's not a plague, it's a strike. Makot. And when the last strike strikes, middle of the night, and Pharaoh screams, okay, go already. Let change happen. Because as Rabbi Gale said, Pharaoh is a state of mind, not just a historical figure or any modern day tyrant that opposes many other things. No, Pharaoh is the resistance to change. So at midnight they say go, and according to one legend, the Israelites, our ancestors, just, okay, we got a window of opportunity here, it's a sweet spot, go. So in our imagination, they left in their pajamas and came right into Miami and walked up the aisle and started bickering, do we stay or do we go? Familiar, change, familiar, change. Sounds familiar? How many of us go through this dilemma of familiar, change 5 times a day? Am I going to get the same old latte or try something new? An example of privilege. This is January. Gyms are full of people determined to change. Come March, There's a lot of room. The whole bike rack's empty. We want to grow. We want to change. We want to improve as individuals and as people, as nations, Jews, as Americans, all types. And the question is, how do we do it? How do we leave the Egypt inside? So every year we come back to this story. We're going to read it tomorrow. We're going to read it next week. We tell it on Passover, at Kiddush that we just read before. We remember the Exodus. It's the master story, the narrative of not just our people, but so many people. For the Christian communities, the story of the Exodus is central. It becomes the cornerstone of the Christian hope. For the black African American community, the story of the Exodus is literally the roadmap from slavery to liberation, still today. The hope of Exodus, of leaving the familiar, the old, the stuck towards new, keeps animating us. And the question is, how do we do it? So when we invented storytelling 20 years ago, unbelievably, the idea was to talk back to Torah, to create change, to offer a refreshing way of reading Torah by translating Torah, by acting Torah, by coming into sanctuaries and jazzing things up, to model the way in which Torah has always been celebrated, the written text and the spoken text. Torah as is, the written words on the scroll, and then Torah as if, the imagined, the acted out, the Torah of now. Because the way Torah lives in 2018 is not how it was in 2008, and certainly not in 1948, and certainly not in 1,000 years ago. It has to keep changing. Because the Torah was created at a time of great social values that for us today seem abhorrent. In the Torah, women don't get up and be rabbis and cantors. Women are second-class citizens. In the Torah, slavery is okay. In fact, a priority. In the Torah, being gay is an abomination, worthy of killing. In the Torah, Gentiles are certainly not as holy and important as Jews. So there are many things in the Torah that we inherited that for us today seem problematic. And to challenge the Torah we inherited, we've got to talk back to Torah. We've got to say that change matters. That to leave Egypt doesn't just mean we tell the story, but in every generation, every Shabbat when we come together and tell the story, we ask ourselves, what is Pharaoh? It is a metaphor for all that resists change. And sometimes Torah itself can be the Pharaoh. People who speak for Torah and say, you can't change anything, got to be as it was, are pharaonic. And that's true right now as we speak for many, many Jews and others who don't want women to have the same status as men, who don't want LGBT folks to be as welcome as thankfully we are, who don't want many things that many of us are fighting for. As somebody who grew up in Israel, and I know we are all concerned for what is happening there, there are many of my family and friends who think, based on Torah, that the land is more holy than people. That's in Torah. But also in Torah is a completely different teaching. That love is more important than anything else. And that people could be more important than land. So Torah is there for us to wrestle with. If Jack and Frida Levy represent a figment of my imagination to model for us the human struggle between staying with what we know and striving for change, that figment of my imagination is rooted in Torah, in our Torah, in this Torah, in the Torah that Jacob will read tomorrow. And in fact, young man, if I may, he already gave us the clue to what is it about Torah that is the key to change. You read a word this evening, beautifully, from the Torah. Right after you did the Shema, which is from the Torah, What's that word you read? Ve'ahavta. So what is that word, the ve'ahavta? What does it say? Love, right? You will love. Ve'ahavta. The ve'ahavta shows up, and Rabbi Ethan gave me that tip when he drove me over here, thankfully, this evening. The ve'ahavta is alluded to in this week's portion too. It's connected to leaving Egypt. The ve'ahavta is the line that says, and you shall love. But it's not exactly you shall love. There's a vav there, an and you will love. And it says you will love the divine, whatever God is, with all of yourself. Your heart, your mind, your body, and you shall love. But that word ve'ahavta shows up 38 other times in the Torah. 37 times it says love the other, love the stranger, love the one you don't know who pushes your comfort zone. And this time it says love God and love. It could said ahavta, but it says ve'ahavta. And I like to say about that, all you need is vav. All you need is that vav, that and. You know why? Because it's very easy for Jack Levy to love what he knows. It's very easy for us to love the people we know and love, the food we're used to, our comfort food, the politics that we are comfortable with, the beliefs and the traditions and the habits that we are comfortable with. Sometimes we're enslaved to them. But Exodus and the Torah come to us and say, no, buddy, ve'ahavta. Don't just be Jack Levy, be Frida too. Push yourself to and love, to re-love the other, the different, the new, the one that pushes your comfort zone, that challenges your assumptions, that doesn't look like you, sound like you, vote like you, believe like you. And you might not even like them. But guess what? Ve'ahavta. You gotta love. So that's in the Torah. And at the end of this week's Parsha, strangely enough, they're ready to leave Egypt, and it says you're going to have these weird tefillin things. You're going to have these black boxes that you're going to wear on your forehead and on your arm. And every day you're going to say the Shema and Ve'ahavta. And you know what that's about? Inside the tefillin are those words, Ve'ahavta. The user manual for how to be a Jew is to push yourself beyond what you know, to do something you don't always feel comfortable with, to constantly change, to constantly grow, to constantly become. And so, when I was here 12 years ago, we were modeling a Torah technique that we will model again tomorrow. How to talk back to text, how to shake things up. Because if we don't shake things up, we stick to the old thing we know and love, but we don't grow as individuals and as people to meet the next challenge of what it means to become. And in the 12 years since, I've learned how to grow as well. And from a storyteller and an artist, I decided to become a rabbi. I think 12 years ago, my oldest daughter was probably just on the way to becoming. So since then, I've become a dad. Whoa, talk about how that changes you. And America and Israel have changed a lot in 12 years, especially in the last few years. And we are being challenged and taught and inspired by Torah and by ourselves to grow, to love beyond what we know and who we know, so we can leave Egypt. The Egypt inside of us, the Egypt that we're familiar with, to follow Frida Levy in her tattered negligee up the aisle of a synagogue, ruffling the feathers of everybody sitting there, and listen to her say, we can do it. Let's leave the familiar, take one small step towards freedom, somehow recognize a new way of being who we are. That's the challenge. Ve'ahavta. Love yourself enough to believe the change is holy and required and necessary. And when we tell the story tomorrow, we will hopefully take one more step towards becoming who we need to be, loving and reloving and growing as people These are tricky times. And the Torah, ancient and wise, is demanding of us to retranslate Torah, to make it our own, to speak to these times so that young people like Jacob, coming of age, you too can talk back to Torah and create a Torah that's all your own. Because we're going to need leaders like you to take it to the 22nd century. It's that old, and it's going to be super new. But you got to relove it. You got to make it your own. We got to grow. So that's what I've been doing with storytelling. That's what I'll be doing here tomorrow. Modeling ways of shaking it up, loving it deeply, one small step at a time. And Cantalisa is ready with her guitar and beautiful voice to lead us in a song that a few hours ago we sang here on the Bima with a bunch of the first graders. The story about taking one small step to freedom, risking, ruffling the familiar to become who we need to become. So my hope for us this Shabbat of Kavanah, that we take one small step, each of us, to push ourselves a little further and become who we need to become, with love, with patience, for more freedom for ourselves, for this country, and for this world. Shabbat Shalom.
You gotta take one small step, one small step. You gotta take one small step for freedom. You gotta take one small step, one small step. You gotta take one small step for freedom. You gotta take one small step, one small step. You gotta take one small step for freedom. You gotta take one small step, one small step. You gotta take one small step for freedom. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell old Pharaoh to let my people go.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
A few quick announcements. If you are staying for potluck, dinner will start almost immediately down in the banquet hall. There is an Oneg Shabbat in the Welcome Center. And following dinner, we have a program with Rabbi Amichai in the Welcome Center at 8 o'clock. So please stay for that. Shabbat Shalom.
probably.